DPS.
I couldn't agree more, considering what we've seen on Scout in the past. Like, it is hit him to a T. Shalom will prioritize his Maokai, though, and look, we were just talking about it. Last time around, LNG, bit of priority in the bottom lane, in the early Sejuani as well for Tarzan, but this time they're like, no, we have to get Scout back on Rise, and they're going to accompany the AD carry Varus once again alongside.
Back to the Rise duty goes for Scout, but of course the Varus is going to get taken off the board. NIP has opted into the Maokai first pick, which has been working extremely well for Xiaolongbao in these previous series. And of course in that game when he had the most, I would say, presence on the map, even though Pout got MVP, he was the reason why Pout got so ahead, right? Of course going to try and look for a counter for this Varus. All of the ADCs are still open, like the Ashe. They're just going to repeat what game 1 or what game 1 draft looked like, and I think Zhuo on this Ashe specifically, he looked very comfortable in this matchup.
It was so clean. I think, yeah, one of the better Ashes of the league for sure. It's just about now what pairs with it. You know, we see the Varus alongside it, Kitty, a lot of the time, but what does Photic want to play here, considering that there's only limited availabilities to pair up with Ashe, and most of the time looks like NIP are just going to look for a solo lane and give Invincible the opportunity of the Renekton blind here for Game 2.
I like this Renekton. It does deny Zika from his Renekton. He has played 6 games of it so far in this split. So a bit of a Renekton one-trick coming into this series. And of course, Renekton just provides a lot of early game urgence alongside the Maokai, which does make up for his lack of presence when before he hits 6. But Hung, once again, on a melee engaging support Leona. But this one is his most played so far. 3 games on it currently. And I think so far, LNG's team comp is looking very dangerous with the amount of CC they have in this bottom lane. But with the ADC still being a question mark for the side of NIP, I do want to see ADC bans from LNG. Tristana comes out, but that has been seen in the mid lane, where I'm sure Pal is also very comfortable in playing because of how oppressive it does in the laning phase. But Azir is also something that we potentially can see. Also Victor has shown us that before. Pretty stable, not explosive, but will do evenly up against Scout's Rise.
I love that you pulled out the Tristana in mid, because only yesterday we saw Xiaohu pull it into a Rise matchup. Like, very, very relevant indeed. Well, jungle's going to be the ban for NIP against Tarzan. That Vi first. We know the Sejuani, as you're saying, is an option to come after that as well. I am just wondering, like, is Hung in a new patch? He's one of the few supports in the league that doesn't want to play any AD carries in response, doesn't want anything to really take the aggression into the Ashe. Instead, the engage sticks in him. It's again, just a unique player in our league. Yone also going to be banned away, just in case Pout wanted to match and do what Scout did last game.
I mean, yeah, those traditional majors are still open for Pout to pick up, but his Silas has been banned for the side of NIP. Of course, Zika wants to get a winning lane for this. I'm assuming they're going to save counter up against this Renekton. Oh, actually, they're going to save counter for the jungle. But yeah, Sejuani is still available. I think when it does get paired alongside the Varus and Leona, they have a lot easier time in terms of executing these team compositions and opting into winning fights because of just how easy it is to activate the early game. But Lee Sin gets locked in here instead.
And it's Tarzan's Lee Sin. It is Tarzan's Lee Sin. And I know across the world there are many great Lee Sins. I put Tarzan in very high regards, and I think he's underrated in that regard too. We look at LNG locking in their jungler in a different route, and Kitty, it goes back to the point you said in-game about this Maokai versus the Sejuani, about how comfortable NIP were leaving it up and available. And so keep that in the back of your mind as the LNG operating with a different jungle role. Now on the other side, Swain locked in here. Is this mid? Is this bot? Because it's funny running it into Scout when Scout was like the OP Swain player. And suddenly NIP are just like, hey, we're going to throw that there. And then another curveball, it looks like. What is happening here?
It's looking like a Swain mid lane hysterics up against Scout's Rise. Very, very interesting for this game too, but I cannot stop staring at Tarzan looking in his Lee Sin, making his debut for this LPL split, and it's going to be our first time seeing this, of course, so very interesting. We don't see a lot of Lee Sins so far. It's more of those tanky frontliners that are able to offer follow-up damage. Of course, you need to have very high execution when it comes to the Lee Sin mechanics on how you set up kills, but with the amount of setup that you already previously had from Varus and Leona, I'm sure that's not going to be a huge problem. But Zika is going to once again opt into this Fiora, where it's going to be a huge skill matchup in that top lane.
So tell me a little bit more. First on NIP side, like, does this draft need to snowball? What are we hoping for here with double 80 carry in the bottom lane and a lot of CC lockup for NIP themselves too?
I mean, they don't have... NIP's entire team comp is very refreshing to see. Swain, of course, is locked in for Pelt this time around. I think it does relatively well into the Rise just scale alongside him, but the biggest difference is, of course, how you play these team fights. And like we've seen in the previous game, the Maokai and Ashe has so much setup in these team fights where I think Swain is going to just be freely dancing around the enemy team of LNG and try to tickle them down with his ultimate. But yeah, I mean, very similar picks for the side of NIP. Once again, it did work extremely well for them in this game one, so I'm not surprised that they didn't change too much of this draft. But on the side of LNG this time, however, the Rise goes into Scout's hands, and I just think Scout, when he's on a comfortable champion, I think it will just bring him back into the game, because LNG's first game wasn't LNG.
It really wasn't. So we're looking for LNG to bounce back, and Kitty, you said comfort, like Hung on Leona. Like his Pyke, I'd say pure comfort. LP with a really solid game. I think he's the best performer of LNG in game number 1. And you look towards Tarzan on Lee Sin. Comfort, comfort, comfort. This man is one of the best blind monks in the universe. But unfortunately, people ironically haven't been able to see that. So we go into game 2 with a refreshing side of relief for LNG fans and for LNG in total as we walk back onto Summoner's Rift. Swain makes a debut as well, as you were saying, with Pout with the Unsealed Spellbook. But we have to find out why are we not getting Gyos in Shenzhen? What is happening? Why is the crowd so quiet? They're not.
Come on,
maybe
everyone.
They're all LNG fans. Everyone's come from Suzhou and they're just not happy with game 1.
Look, we can still do a Gyro for game 2. It's still continuing. It hasn't been lost just quite yet. But yeah, we're gonna see a wall getting dropped here by Salonbot just to make sure this skill matchup in top lane, Invincible gets that heads up in terms of Bush priority. But yeah, Jhin, Ashe once again up against a Leona. So the same threats from the side of LNG's bot lane, but I didn't see too much proactiveness from Hung on that Nautilus in game 1, where maybe in game 2, you know, he is on this comfort champion. He's able to pull off these ganks and roams much better since he, I don't know, he just didn't look like himself on that Nautilus. So
Kitty,
a bit of a switch up.
Proactiveness, I think Hung was proactive, but in the wrong way. I think the problem with game number 1, like the 0-9 Nautilus, was Hung was maybe too excited to pull a hook in, as we saw even from the level 1 mark. That's kind of what lost the lane.
I mean, if you don't send it on champions like Leona and Nautilus, are you really playing Leona and Nautilus? It's either gonna go amazing for you or it's gonna go terrible. And of course it went terrible for the side of LNG this time. But Dro spacing LNG's bowling very, very well, where Leona's weak point is at level 1. Since you do have the Q available, but you don't have the range.
Look at them go. I mean, yet again, LP and Hung just getting bullied out. And of course we expect this with the Leona Jhin, but it was just like last game, where, remember, Hung's red blind in, got half health traded, and the lane was forever in Photic Draw's favor. And considering as well that Tarzan right now is clearing the bottom side, has an angle there just in case, but also can then path up to the top side and rotate back around for the second clear. Kitty, already a very good start for NIP when we have been praising them, I think, from the word go here today.
Yep, NIP definitely showing up with their morale from game 1. Lee Sin does get scouted by the Ashe E, so we do know that Tarzan is going to be playing towards Zika's lane, which does give Xiaolongbao an angle to potentially dive here. But LNG has all their summoners available, and LP's gone.
Yeah,
from level 1, he's gone.
Wait, he was scared of the dive. I guess again, it was spotting out probably from the sapling coming through, but that's so much. Kitty, look at the wave. He's on 2 CS. What?
Okay,
well,
you're just gonna back in this 2 waves as the Varus, and this Leona's gonna pick up everything. Maybe it's
He's got more CS.
Oh no, the Leona's out CSing the Varus in this game. I'm expecting chaos to absolutely ensue with this top lane very, very soon, though. Tarzan very angry from how game 1 went, so he's gonna do a lot of fighting at the start of this game.
Yeah, he's going to have to. I mean, look, Tarzan's got a big shoe to fill, I guess, in that bottom side because there's a 10 CS lead already. Just interesting. Kitty must have been really scared of the dive happening, but still at half HP, didn't want to play the risk whatsoever as Tarzan now going into the invade, but spotted out by a sapling. We'll be walking past yet another one as well, by the way. And Xiaolongbao just getting full information in reverse. LNG doing the same with that ward placed down on the Gromp, where Tarzan still wants to invade.
The blind monk is still looking, but there's a lot of cats stopping him from getting this 1v1 duel. Fiora is backing right now, though. She's resetting tempo, so Tarzan shouldn't go for this. And he leaves. But already you can see a change up in Tarzan's playstyle. Very aggressive towards the enemy jungler, and that is exactly what you want up against a Maokai jungle. Start challenging him before he gets the demonic embrace online, where you aren't going to be able to enter into your own jungle for these major objectives.
Tracking as well, helping out some of these solo laners who last game around were nigh uninfluential. Scout already starting off in a better way on his rise with just about a 10 CS lead, as that's also enabling Tarzan to do a bit of invading. Look at this, straight onto the Krug camp. Rather, Raptors, excuse me, and Xiaolongbao a little bit slower on the clear, only just hitting 4 himself. Tarzan has decided to just take that for his own initiative. He'll be spotted out, but it's way too late.
The Ashe spots him once again. I mean, Ashe in this current meta is just such a pest when it comes to these draws, because she gets flexed to ADC and support. And in a lot of these matchups, once you take the Halo Blades, you just win every single trade as long as you know how to space correctly. And from Joe's current performance, we obviously know he's a very good Ashe. And maybe Hung decided that Ashe didn't need to get banned. It was just a blip in the radar where his Nautilus just was not it. And they're going to take up this challenge once again.
Yeah, again, for Draw, going on something similar to this game. I'd be pretty optimistic, however, just after that Game 1 Nautilus. Still not sure what to think, and especially with the early lane state, based off that early back from LP. Bottom's not something I'm optimistic about in total for LNG, as level 3 versus level 4 on the 80 carry, that experience difference worth keeping an eye on. As up in the top side, we're getting top laners getting ready for the 6 mark. Zika is 1 minion away, I believe. Yes, there it is. He hit 6. Invincible is not 6, so Grand Challenge not going to come through the slice and dice expected. And that's that small window that Zika was unable to punish.
Bit of trading going up in this top side, where Renekton did opt into the Ninja Tabbies first because you're up against Lee Sin and Fiora when it does come to the 2v2 sense. But a lot of priority coming out of NIP's bowling once again. I mean, Hung on this melee, so I just want to see a flash Q onto the ADC or support of Ashe, burn something, and then just repeatedly do that and have that aggression where you have the Hex Flash available as Leona.
Well, maybe it's going to come from the Sonic Wave. Tarzan might not be sick, but the damage is done. Relmore brings in Scout as well, but wait for it. There you go. You got Hung's Flash Kitty. The Zenith Blade forces out Potik, so now he's got no summoners whatsoever. And there's no level 6 as we all fight around Dragon. It's only Scout to bring it in. As I will say, Pout does have his Demonic Ascension. He can turn into a dangerous Birdman. Do the chicken dance on top of LNG. Dragon's still going to be a flip at this point. Is Xiaolongbao looking for the steal, or rather the smite down? Pout holds his in. Dragon's secured. Pout now running forward. There's the first flare coming through. Still in range for yet a second. First blood of an NIP is... Oh! Pout comes in over. And guess what with the range? The movement speed. LP is dead. It's Death's Hand once again. But Pout should be dying for his visible TP'd in. A flush from Tarzan. The top laner comes down. Invincible. Add to the fray as NIP Kitty. They've just started this early game off beautifully again.
A repeat of Game 1. Once again, Pout picking up 2 kills. I'm getting deja vu. Or 1 kill. He got an assist on the other kill, but I'm getting deja vu hysterics. Pout has been playing so well in these early game team fights, where he is just able to toss out so much damage on the Swain, where Xiaolongbao was realistically so low to even enter into the fight. Although the Dragon has been secured, they are focusing down the flashless Leona. And I just need to highlight that Vaz is still level 4. He's a level below this Leona, so he's not going to offer too much into these team fights. And Invincible, just being a little bit more proactive, does TP down and enter into the fight, where Pout unfortunately does fall, but more kills go into the pockets of NIP.
Oh, Invincible getting the kill as well, Kitty. I mean, it's Renekton getting a bit of resources from the back end of that. Turret plating as well. That's what our observer was trying to show us, that 2 bits of turret plating in the end were taken to Photic. So LP level 5, Photic level 6, and again, we got to talk about the gap in this bottom lane. Now we can start talking about the gap in the rest of the map as all those resources go over and lend NIP a 1,500 lead here in this early game, Kitty. They're now even moving up to Rift Herald to try and push it further.
Probably Ashe and Maokai aren't level 6 just quite yet though, so if you want to force something or opt into a fight.
Scout is going to find himself on to pound that ultimate's almost up and available. This is the timing if I've ever seen one, but Deadly Flow's going to follow through the Soul Flare as well. It's a 1-for-1, but support for mid laner and Shallow about going to follow through. That smite down with LP getting a kill, but now he's going to be nuked to oblivion. All it took was close quarters combat as Sheriff finds himself the bounty. 2 kills now over to Bodic and Kitty. Just because the jungler went down doesn't mean LNG have free reign. Over to that Herald now.
A 2-for-2 trade for both sides of this team. I could see what LNG were doing. They forcing onto Pal before NIP's Welling reaches their level 6 ultimate spikes. And unfortunately, Jin is already 6 from the previous wave. But a lot of spells committed to Pal, and unfortunately he didn't have that ultimate available where he was just getting crowded by everyone. But of course, you are fighting against a Maokai with his little saplings in the bush. So it's very tough being the side of NIP. And Both is just playing these fights so well. He knows his role as a Jin, and he creates space between him and the enemy, and he just starts shooting these people down with his ultimate.
And look, speaking of shooting people down, you know, the movement was great. NIP have also set themselves up to get the Herald as we come second time around. But even the arrows are going to start flying out now as well. And Kitty, we already talked about Constant draft as Invincible. Might have gone a bit too far forward to this plate. He's going to have to dominate in. He's got the Tabi that might help out as Zika's not going to get the final tag of the Grand Challenge. That's an ulti down from both of them. The Splash is still available for Invincible if this turns back. LNG now looking for a play in the bottom side, but Kitty, the wave hasn't been pushed in yet. We're going to have to wait a little bit as TP going to be burned in response. LP might be caught out. Is this going to be dangerous for LNG as Pout comes down and saves the play?
Unfortunately, Tarzan was spotted on that ward that we see right above that wall. And really proactive TP coming out of Pout, but something else that's been catching my eyes is that we know that Invincible TP down to that bottom lane fight, and he was able to pick up that 1 kill, but Zika not really getting a CS lead when your laner wasn't in your lane, and I'm getting concerned because Zika on this Fiora, we've seen 2 very silent performances so far, so can he really just become the late game monster that LNG wants in this team comp?
So, Kitty, are you worried at the point for LNG for scaling? Because, like, we still have the Fiora, we have the Rise this time around. What does it look like if the game state stays with NIP slowly drifting ahead? I
mean, Zika, I do expect a lot of mechanics coming out of a blind... I mean, this Fiora was countered this time since Renekton was picked before, but in the first one, it was a blind Fiora, so a lot of confidence coming out of LNG's top laner. But like you said, Rise, Varus, still a lot of ability to scale safely into the late game. But you're trying to play for that split pushing team composition alongside with the Realm Warp that is available for Scout, and that is a very viable win con for LNG. But Invincible, like I said, he isn't too behind this Fiora, where he is going to be so much more valuable in these team fights when we're going to approach the second dragon this game.
Let's see if he's able to get himself an item before then. However, it doesn't look like a back's going to come through because there's no TP. You mentioned no TP for these soul lanes and top side as Zika has his ultimate yet up and available again. Dominance is there too. Invincible's been poked on down as Zika's thinking about it, and you know with that proc in as well. Grand Challenge comes out to Dominance. Invincible might be in trouble, but having said that, all it takes is a W and flash. But Zika's waiting for that riposte that saves his life from a Cull the Meek. Not going to be coming through. Meanwhile, it was Herald mid to try and get the second dragon where NIP would get the stacked up as Bodic moving out of position. Bodic could be in danger, but LNG are like, no, they don't pull the trigger, and he just walks freely to dragon.
They just don't care about voting. I mean, he does have the cleanse available, but at least burn it for future play. Ash Arrow coming out.
Oh, and it hits Scout as well. The minion wave about to dissipate, and especially with the never move. Scout might be in a bit of trouble, however, but they have moved down the bottom lane, and I could be wrong. And a Bodic flash away, Sonic Wave kicked and dead. LNG finally make the play happen as Draw is running for his life. No one there to save him for the time being. Tarzan stops the pursuit there, hung as well. So LNG at least getting themselves a kill, Kitty, while Dragon plating, excuse me, for LNG should be following up in this bottom lane.
Yep, second dragon does go into the pockets of NIP, but Photic finally gets caught coming back into this lane, and a lot of plays going to go into the hands of LP. already having the Immortal Shilbo online, where in this ADC matchup, a bit of a switch up for Photic specifically. He's going the Lethality Jhin this time around. Really well played by LP. He was staying out of vision to really connect his ultimate. The cleanse does come out, but Tarzan's follow-up Q just secured the deal, and Joe wasn't really able to do too much because his ultimate was used in that mid lane early on.
And LP able to get some gold back into this game and actually equalize the CS with plating on top of that. So from that early game level 2 back that felt like it hurt LNG so much, Kitty, they've now been able to stabilize that bottom lane and even equal up the gold lead overall. Like, we're only 1,000 behind for LNG, and despite the Dragons being NIP favored, at least they can say that LP, is going to be more and more relevant and in a comfortable position in this game.
I mean, now that you've burnt both summoners off the ADC from NIP, I would expect that repeatedly done from the side of LNG, just to really abuse this time frame of 5 minutes, since the Jhin doesn't have that defensive spell.
Oh.
Very close.
Again. Well, ulti's going to be burnt as well. Flash down from Scout. We're talking about the tools that can abuse Photic lack of summoners, but right now, Scout now getting burn of his own. Might be a reverse. There's Deadly Flourish yet again, but that's just to force out Hung and add some pressure while Tarzan moves into position. LNG want this bottom lane turret to get there first.
Scout is still currently CSing in the mid lane, so he's not going to rotate until he gets that wave pushed in. But I think this is a much more stable game now that LNG has picked up that 1 kill onto Photic now, and LP is slowly getting online with the disastrous start that he had in a 2 CS Varus. I think he's very happy with the game state so far, and not a lot of fighting, but I think with the rise in your pockets this time in this Game 2 draft, you're going to comfortably also scale into late game with this Fiora being a side lane threat as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about how LNG can play out the sides with the rise. I think important to note that we kind of said it from first last time for NIP is, Kitty, I want to point out some items while we have some time before next Dragon, before Herald. We have a Manamune coming this time around from Photic. So Yomu's first, running into the Manamune second, or maybe third, depending on where the Serrated Dirt goes. The Photic changing it up, as you said. There's going to be a lot of bursts coming around this third Dragon.
Yeah, a lot of setup already as the support of Hung goes towards that Herald, but LP is just walking up towards Invincible while he has the flash available. I don't know if he's allowed to do this.
Yeah, maybe not. Chain Disruption will come through, and at the very least, Enchanted Cross Arrow doesn't connect. LP now down with an ulti. No summoners were able to be burned as Pout is going to respond to this top side of the map. Meanwhile, with the rest of NIP moving up, but LNG playing very safe and playing quite reserved here in their lanes, not giving anything over, while NIP decide now's the time to start the Herald as it just spawned.
Once again, NIP just getting their hands on all these early objectives with the amount of pressure from Ashe and Maokai when it comes to this vision control and just pure engage that they are able to offer when it does get to that game, state of the game. But you know, LNG does get the first bottom tower in this instance, and they are still slowly scaling. But how many Heralds and how many Dragons are you really going to go over or give over before you start fighting? Because once again, the win con of a Dragon Soul this time being Mountain is still very, very threatening for NIP to get.
True, and again, you know, Mountain, when you have a Renekton Bruiser, when you have a Maokai who still builds those stats, like, we also get a Swain who's going to be, I guess, Rise Part 2. Considering what we saw from Pout last game. You know, still very annoying with his passive, with Rod of Ages also stacking up there. So, worth mentioning that it's a valuable Dragon that NIP have control of. As they move into River, I should say that control shifted over a little bit to LNG, but Kitty, third Dragon can't be understated as they use the Herald to try and push mid in the build-up towards this timer.
I mean, getting this mid-lane priority is already so good for the side of NIP, but Arrow comes out.
And there's not going to be a turret there. The Never Move comes as well, but they don't overcommit. They don't find the lockdown, and instead LP just has to burn the cleanse. A summoner before the Dragon spawns up, plus the turret going down. NIP should be happy with that to start off this Dragon and see what they get.
It really depends on how Tarzan decides to utilize his ultimate. He has the flash available, so does he want to ult away the front line from his carries, or does he want to insect
Scout
potential
tag
tag into his own team?
I mean, they are turning for the kill instead. Scout going to be locked up. Does he have a stopwatch available? The answer seems to be no. As the kickback onto Photic, who's being poured out. The 80 carry of NIP might be going down, but no one hit him. He got out so much more damage than he should have. There's now some power as he goes golden. He's trying to be brought back by Zika, but LNG is a bit messy. However, LP still surviving with a double kill. This Varus, who started out shockingly, is now shocking right back to NIP.
LP is finally getting those angles where he's able to safely just toss out damage in these team fights. Really well played and set up from Tarzan. He was able to kick Photic into the enemy lines, and Photic just pretty much died instantly. And as a result, Scout was kind of traded off because he was just caught out from the Maokai ultimate from the initial engage. But yeah, I mean, with the main damage source of this Jhin dying straight away, the Swain is just not going to have that burst damage available because he is a Swain that just slowly trickles you down. Tarzan does get the insect onto the Jhin, gets the deal, seal deal, Drove flashes into the Q actually, but doesn't do too much because he will still get CC'd by the side of Kong. But look at LP and just how much freedom he's having in this team fight where I think Invincible should have been just on LP instead of whatever he was doing in this team fight for NIP to win this.
How was he not touched? LP just,
I don't know.
Just chilling playing PvE, man. Literally just grinding out a Maple Story boss by himself. So good stuff for LNG's 80 carry, 5-2 and 2. This is the third item in the making as well. And remember that we cannot state this enough. LP was behind the curve by a level and a half. He is now up a level on top of Photic and giving LNG a lot of hope in this second game. As gold is dead even, they were able to pick up a dragon. And we did talk a lot about the scaling from LNG here and Kitty, how they can play this mid game going forward.
LP is definitely the most consistent player in the series so far. On the side of LNG, he did the most damage on that on-hit Varus build from game 1. Once again, I'm assuming he is topping damage charts with just the pure amount of DPS he was able to toss out in the previous fight. And I think this Varus pick is just doing so much compared to Photic, where once you get flash engaged on by Tarzan or by, I believe, Hung, then you're going to die instantly as that immobile ADC, and you have to just play your positioning so carefully if you want to win these team fights.
Again, it kind of speaks to the testament of LP coming into the league. Remember that this guy was a bit of a fill-in. Like, this is his first major split where you know he's going to be playing the role consistently and where you know he's actually been given a proper chance. And props to LP. If this is a solo queue game, it's definitely plus 17 rather than minus. I think even the last one, lost mitigated for how Scout and Tarzan, well, I mean, Zika kind of played in the end there as well, especially Hung. You know, he's the kind of person that you feel like, man, you should get a refund on half your LP for game number 1. But frankness
LP
aside,
definitely.
Oh, Kitty, he was the best player for sure. And again, as you said, the consistency is there. As we are going to get ourselves, not an Ashes, but a Wit's End coming out third here from this Varus too. There is a decent amount of AP damage on the side of NIP, so mitigating that, but also the 3 items going to be massive here for the 80 carry.
Yeah, LNG, not only did they turn that fight around for that third dragon, they also secure the third dragon and deny the Mountain Soul Point from NIP, and that just gives extra time for the Rise and Field to scale further on into the game. This Ashe Arrow does not connect. Drow still having a lot of KP on this Ashe, but you know, with the switch up of this Rise not being in NIP's pocket this time, I just feel like they are able to find a lot of those tempo fights where Rise just kind of cheats it by ulting in the fights.
True, and again, like Scout has been a quiet achiever, so that CS gap should be quite obvious when we get into one of those fights too, and see how much damage Scout does. As Overlay goes down, meaning something's going to happen. The future vision, something's definitely going to happen. And Photic, his flash almost up and available. Keep an eye on that. Summoner Resist Cleanse is there. Stepping up dangerously so as LNG separate for the time being, but nothing comes off the back of it. A minute 15 till the next dragon, though, getting something I'm going to keep keeping my eyes out for is NIP continue to try and force LNG into an uncomfortable position in front of this third dragon. All 4.
I mean, my eyes are just on the flashes of everyone because this upcoming dragon fight realistically is just who can kill the ADC first. Because this Swain, obviously, like I said, not a lot of burst damage, so you can just push him to the side before and then you just kill Photic straight away. But on the other hand, you have LP, and I think Invincible's role in the next upcoming team fight is to really just stop and zone LP from tossing out that damage, because in the end, he is an on-hit Varus, and he has to be up in your face to really toss out the DPS in those team fights. So Invincible and Xiaolongbao role is going to be very crucial in this third dragon, which could potentially go to NIP.
And again, we talked about so much CC for NIP. The fact that he was free hitting in the last team fight should never happen. As we're looking for a pick towards mid. LP might be targeted. There's Enchantress Arrow as well. Flies Imperial Mandate as the Ents go marching one by one yet again. Pout is tanking up in the front line in this choke. It's a good start, but NIP have committed a lot, haven't found much. It's Cleanse and Flash now gone from their superstar AD carry. LNG zoned out, and Kitty, now NIP have the route to go and get this dragon.
LP gets caught out in that mid lane and has to burn 2 summoners, so the threat of this Renekton is just so much more oblivious when we come into this next team fight, so I'm really scared for LP.
I mean, Hung sets it up again. Shalom Val's the target, but Hung going in by himself. LNG have found a target onto Invincible, who was zoned out himself. Grand challenge is good, though. And Rise is starting to do his things as Pout sets up for the CZ. They take the Realm Warp. Tarzan and Scout are the ones who go through, while LP is still in this fight at half HP. He's healed up. Can join back in, but the arrow's there. He's got no summons. But can anyone get to him? Pout's trying to get him. But he engaged there, and Shalom Val flashing away. Numbers advantage should be coming through, but Zika is a Fiora through and through, and it's just over through the solo lanes. LNG fight back, and NIP are wiped off the board.
NIP plays that so messily, where this Fiora picked up 3 kills as a result of this 4th dragon fight. And once again, Photic, he just doesn't have enough damage to kill the Varus, even though the Ash ultimate connected at the very end. This entire fight starts with LP getting caught in this middle lane, and he has to burn both summoners as a result of that. And I believe even more summoners were burned from the side of LNG for a mistake like this. And it just put LNG in such an awkward position where they weren't able to contest for this dragon. And Zika, my eyes and my hero coming into this next team fight. He plays it very, very slow, where Invincible is trying to get his hands onto the backline of LNG, but he gets instantly melted from Fiora's ultimate, and that is the front line of NIP gone. And Zika just constantly playing this fight so well, getting the vitals and suffocating NIP once they hit this bottom lane. Ash Arrow does come out very, very soon onto the cleanseless LP, but look at the Jin Force shot. Just not enough damage, and Zika cleans up with a triple kill.
After everything was burnt from LP, expectations for the NIP had a good chance in the fight, but you're right, Zika's patience really plays out. Scout there as a supporting body as well. Puts LNG into the second Mountain Dragon here in this game, puts them into a 3k gold lead. Things are looking good for them to take it to a game number 3, especially now that we've got that side laning fully activated with our third item. Kitty, why is brain not working? Please help.
It's okay. Let's redirect it now that Zika has so much money in his pockets. He's opted into the Hullbreaker for his third
there
item.
We go.
So that means he can't play for these team fights no more. But can NIP really take down the Fiora once she's pressuring?
Dwarf just over a wall by himself, poked out, bursted down. NIP support just in no man's land. However, it might set up the kill on Tarzan as Photic gets CC'd up himself. Gets the last shot before he does, but will die through his trouble. Now Zika running into the rest of NIP. It's a 3 versus 4. As Pout tries to bring it back, but LNG have taken down some pretty crucial members. The map is theirs once again.
A 1-for-2 trade, not too shabby, especially with Zika still consistently pressuring the side lanes of NIP. Well, he's going to group up for this current stage in the game, but I just see the Charles falling as a result of that. But of course, Photic, Dro not having flash available from the previous dragon fight just means they have to position extremely well, or they just get caught up like this. And Dro gets spotted from the blue ward and gets instantly kicked by Tarzan. As a result, Tarzan does sacrifice his life for a 1-for-1 trade, but Photic trying to ult in the middle of everyone? You're up against a Leona, you can't do that. Especially without your cleanse available at that second, you're just gonna die as well.
And again, like, bottom lane has been a roller coaster of emotions this game. Photic has gone from a great laning phase to getting caught out like that with LP really being the better AD carry from the 15-minute mark. And LNG still hold the reins of this game. Let's be real, like this mid-game has been theirs from the point that turret plating went down. It felt very LNG favored. And we know that we've already talked about scaling and what they're going to do. Kitty on the other side, NIP. What do you hope for here? Is it just pick? Is it just pick before objectives? Is that like your main goal here as the blue team?
I mean, you have the Varus Splash not being available at this current second. So I just want to see NIP's topside really force this. But they are just going to do a desperate play, maybe turn on the visionless LNG as they approach this Baron.
Yeah, but Tarzan on Lee Sin again. We know
They
Lee
force the
Sin
TP
has
out.
a bit of a detriment. Is that
Draw.
the great ulti from LP? Zeke with the flank as well now for NIP. The question is whether they get choked out or whether they try and turn it around. Baron is disengaged, of course, with LNG. Just going to send Tarzan to back away. NIP have to play the retreat game as Vision is just being turned completely wide back into LNG's favor.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a Baron Dash coming out of NIP. They do successfully get Zika's Zika's TP on this Fiora. So if they ever do that once again, this Hullbreaker Fiora can't really come into the fight instantly. It's just a walk up and potentially could sneak a Baron into their favor. But this third dragon is coming up very, very soon. Third Mountain Soul, a Mountain Dragon, and LNG already having a Fiora with these stopwatches available and the Hullbreaker. I just fear that NIP doesn't have enough damage to execute Fiora when she's going for those silent pushes.
True. I mean, so far it hasn't been a real threat as the Scout gets hit out pretty hard. LP doesn't have the ultimate available to add his 2 cents into this mix. Couple of ultis now burned for Ninjas in Pajamas as they walk through this Jhin ulti trying to set it up with a follow engage. But now that 3 ultis in the blink of an eye down. Zika's running through me, but he has a Hullbreaker. I think he doesn't care about all these people, and he turned the ulti into invincible. This Renekton has a dominant run for his life, and Grand Challenge might not go down, but suddenly, that top laner is irrelevant.
Irrelevant, invincible is irrelevant. Exactly, I couldn't have worded it better. Because once you get to this stage as the Renekton, unless you're flashing onto the carries of LNG, you are just going to get consistently pushed out by the Fiora in a 1v1 situation.
They're trying. God, they're really trying NIP to find something back. Dragon is up though, key. Will health bars matter because Zika is a little bit low and doesn't have the TP to get back. Tarzan as well. Maybe NIP have set themselves up for third drag. Do they care about it?
I mean, you have to care about it because your only AD damage realistically, or range AD damage, is Photic, and he has decided to go towards the Yomus and Eclipse. And there's just not enough armor penetration to really kill the side of LNG if they do secure this third Mountain Dragon. But look at the wave state of NIP. They're getting desperate, so they have to do something here.
But look, if it goes on forever, Bot is just going to break open that inhibitor turret in jeopardy, as you were saying. The Scout's going to realm warp in. Sonic Wave hits onto Powders. NIP try to pick their target onto Zika, but it's looking messy. A great riposte yet again, but top laner soon to die as the ultimate from Maokai flies through. But LP is hitting again. Somebody kill that 80 carry. The curtain call might help out as LNG are getting low themselves. This could be so bad. Soulflare dodged away from it. They just can't walk forward. NIP need a miracle here. They need the fast. And Photic to deliver it to them. How's he going to go with his double summoners available? There we go. We're getting Deja Vu again, Kitty. Or maybe it's the Massive Hunt. Goes on in to die. Scout now up next as LNG are losing this pretty badly. NIP have dropped 2 members, but at the very least, they regain control somewhat in this game.
Somehow, NIP turned the entire fight with just how the ball lane of NIP creates space with the amount of range that they have against LNG's team comp. But once again, this Mountain Soul is still on the play. It does go towards LNG because of just the pure wave state that NIP has in this bottom and mid lane. But Zika just constantly trying to threaten with his Hullbreaker, not being able to really execute Droid just quite yet. And he does fall as a result of that, but my eyes are on LP because LP is just once again not being touched by anyone. But yeah, NIP plays the fight extremely well with space. Photic knows his role. He drops the ultimate, gets everyone to 1 HP. They just have to play this extremely slowly with Ashe and hope for a route from Photic, where he did end up getting it. Not a lot of kills going into their hands, but it does regain the vision and control of this Baron.
But as you said, like at the end of the day, LNG probably didn't fret too much because even though they lost the fight, you know, me saying NIP have control in this game, I guess just the wrong statement because third dragon goes over, soul fight in 4 minutes for them. Things are looking real good, and that triple mountain dragon turned into a mountain soul. Like, yeah, with this split pushing Fiora as well, it still looks desperate for NIP to try and find a win here when LNG are still controlling this game state through and through. It's gonna
Now
die.
that's because
Yep.
he is gonna die with the whole breaker. Why is he AFK? Oh my god, he stopped moving for like a second. I was scared. But Baron is going to get threatened because no one can really face up against Fiora unless it's a 1v2 scenario. So NIP has to make a very crucial decision in either stopping Zika from split pushing or taking the 4v4 fight in this Baron pit.
Invincible scared to do so. I mean, Inhibitor's just going to be dropping down at this rate, turning to the play. As you said, both are going to be running in, but even in 2 versus 1, I wouldn't put it past Zika with Ignite. As LNG are going to do the Baron, and they really get neither. NIP moving towards its objective, but look how fast it's going down as Nature's Grasp again flying through. Baron will just be dropping down here as TP from Invincible.
But
Zika could just end the game in a 5 versus 4. Will that even be enough as Invincible might die in it? Tarzan's also just helped kill out as Pout is dead first, and now with the Realm Warp in. It doesn't matter. A 5 versus 4 fight, and LNG are winning that too. We're going to a Game 3, and LNG looking so much better than they debuted here in this series against Ninjas in Pajamas.
NIP just needs one win to stop their loss streak. They had such a prominent Game 1, but they threw Game 2 with just how these teamfights were played. And Zika, in the very end, he came online on this to Fiora, and with the Baron, with the whole breaker, he was just able to just end the entire game on this pick. I really like how he didn't double down on this champion, because in the Game 1, we didn't see him really show up with this blind Fiora pick. But Game 2, he definitely showed us why he is very comfortable on this champion. And overall, for the side of LNG, they did pick their comforts, and they looked extremely good execution.